I've encountered some Muslims that are fully trusting of the content of the book of Barnabas and what it reveals. Why, in turn, is the New Testament met with such skepticism?
What is called the Gospel of Barnabas today is a document that was discovered in the Middle Ages, something like the 16th century, by a certain Fra Marino, who was an Italian, and then he embraced Islam. The document itself was discovered to be in the Italian language, and then subsequently translated into English by Lonsdale and Laura Ragg. This gospel became popular among Muslims because, among other things, it says that instead of Jesus being crucified on the cross, someone was made to look like Jesus, and that one was crucified. And it also has Jesus explicitly referring to a person coming after him whose name is Muhammad. But despite this popular acclaim among Muslims, I did not come across any historical defense of this as the original Gospel of Barnabas. In fact, it is known that there was a gospel called the Gospel of Barnabas because a 4th century decree listing banned books lists one of the books as the Gospel of Barnabas. And Barnabas we know to have been one of the important early Christians. So did he write a gospel, and is this the one? We cannot trace this historically through the ages, and for this reason I prefer not to make reference to this Gospel of Barnabas as being supportive of the Muslim views, because for Muslims we have a very strict system of identifying what comes from the previous prophets, and the Gospel of Barnabas does not meet those strict requirements.
The Gospel of Barnabas, considering it was written more than 1,000 years after the time of Jesus, and the manuscripts are in Spanish and Italian, and scholars across the board regard it as a rather obvious forgery. This was written geared to defend an Islamic interpretation of Jesus, and that's why it's more popular. But you got to dig a little deeper and actually look into the historical background, that the Gospel of Barnabas is filled with details that just can't be historical. It talks about them sailing to Nazareth and so on. So we know the origin of that book. As far as why it's popular and why the New Testament is less popular, that's true at sort of the popular level. In other words, some Muslims who haven't studied these issues like the Gospel of Barnabas more at the more scholarly level and among Muslim debaters than we're usually dealing with the New Testament.